Welcome to the About podcast. Here we explore your financial health in simple and easy to understand ways.
All right, well, welcome everybody back to the About podcast. This is Jeremy Scott here, one of your hosts, and joined again, and as always, by Roy Hookey. Roy Hookey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm jet lagged.
You are.
If I'm not my chipper self, you'll know why.
You were on another continent.
I was. It was wonderful, by the way. I highly recommend everybody go to Africa if you can.
Yeah. Well, Africa's a big place, so you got to narrow that down a little bit.
Yeah, I was in Botswana and Zimbabwe.
There you go.
So saw Victoria Falls and the Okabanga Delta.
Nice.
Which was wonderful. Nice. Really was wonderful.
Well, I bet that a big part of your trip was the topic of conversation for today, which is automobiles and all things cars and transportation. And while I am a big lover of cars and been a lifetime subscriber to Car and Driver magazine, I am not an expert in cars, but we have one, as we are often wont to do at our little show here. So today we're welcoming Bryan Slaymaker. By the way, best last name ever. Always thought so.
You know, I got made fun of when I was growing up for that last name, and my boys were heroes with that last name.
Isn't that interesting, the generational?
Yeah, generational.
Nuance?
Well, and if you think about a sleigh and what a sleigh is, the fact that you ended up in the car and transportation industry is rather fitting, actually. It was almost like it was foretold.
Oh, yeah, and the big thing of that is when you were growing up, they always asked you if you were making Santa's sleigh, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it was like...
There you go. Well, just sleighs of a different kind now, right?
Yeah.
Though you're not making them, you're selling them.
You're selling them.
Yeah.
Right. So why don't we, we'll start off with a little bit of like introduction to you and your history and why the folks at home are excited to hear from you today.
I won't go super in depth, but how I got into the business, I sold Xerox for 5 years, and this guy kept going in and calling on him at the dealership, and he goes, "Hey, Bryan, come talk to me. I want you to sell cars." And I said, I'm okay. And then all of a sudden one day I went and talked to him, and I'm going, I have the love of cars. It's not anything more than passion for cars. I love cars, and you guys know me well enough. I always have something different I'm driving. So that's just where it kind of fell in, and I sold cars for 1 month, and they threw me in finance, and that's where I was for over 5 years and owned a dealership. I've done it all.
Wow.
So, and now I'm back just selling cars, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, so I suppose full disclosure from the beginning, Bryan is a member of our church here and part of our men's group, which is why we know Bryan. He's willing to come and chat with us. And Bryan is here as himself, not necessarily as a representative of the dealership he's currently at or anything like that. Right. He's here to share his personal expertise.
Here is a car guru.
Yes.
And, you know, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but it's like we want to make sure people understand, how do they go about dealing with cars, buying cars, selling cars? And how do they not get taken advantage of? Because you always hear about the bad stories, right?
Because if we think about it, I mean, next to your house, you know, the next biggest single purchase somebody's probably going to make, especially in today's age where car prices seem to be going up and up and up and up, is your vehicle. Yep. I mean, you can easily spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000.
100. You
know, I mean, you're spending on a car what I paid for my first house.
Right.
You know, it's not out of the realm of possibility for that now. So huge financial outlay commitment, and it stinks if you leave feeling like, did I get a good deal? I don't know. How do I know if I got a good deal? You know.
Well, and the big thing, if you're buying brand new vehicles, and brand new vehicles right now are at the peak of, it's not about making money on them. It's about just rotating your inventory. So 90% of the people that walk out of there, they don't realize it, but the dealership's actually losing money on that car. They make a little bit in finance and stuff on them, but basically every manufacturer gives you some money back. So you might break out, but where you're making all the money is in service and parts and all that. So it's kind of a wash on the front end, you might say. But realistically, if you feel like you got a good deal when you walked out, a lot of guys, no matter how much you try to treat them right and everything else, they still don't think we're all car guys.
Right.
We're all car guys. We're not going to give you a good deal. You know what?
There are some stereotypes about car dealers.
No, all the time, and you hear it all the time. I hear it every day. You know, so personally, if you like the guy you're dealing with, overall, period. If you like that guy and he's treating you right and stuff, he's probably genuine and he's giving you a good deal. But the guys that are always trying to switch you and put you in something else, you know that guy doesn't have your best interests. You know, that's how I look at it. If you're in there for one thing and you can afford that, then don't let him switch you to another vehicle. If that's the one you want, that's the one you want.
Like trying to upsell you to the next, like the next size up, or,
right?
Whatever the next,
Right.
So paint a picture a little bit for our listeners with, they don't buy cars every day, right? A lot of people don't.
Right.
You have gurus like you that have a lot of experience with that. And then there's the person that drives a car for 15 years before they get another one.
Right.
So how do someone off the street, they have interest in a car of some type and make and model, and they go into a dealership to say, I want to look at something. How would you recommend they evaluate the salesperson to know, like, should I work with this person or not? Or should they have a referral from somebody who's used them before? Are there any tips you could kind of guide people with that just don't do it that often?
I really, I look, and I'm not a big Google guy or any of that stuff, but I do look at the reviews on some people, because those are the guys that are actually doing very well in the business, and they have good Google reviews and everything else. But I would take a referral from another customer or a friend over just walking into a dealership.
Yeah. It's a little bit of roulette when you walk in.
Yeah, it is. And you get the guys that I'm trying to be politically correct on this.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble.
So the younger guys, they're there just to hang out. You got to get somebody that knows the product. I don't care if it's a Tesla or if it's a $100,000 pickup. They have to know something about that product. And I think that's the biggest thing is 90% of the guys anymore, especially the younger crowd, they don't really care about that. All they are is looking for a fast sale and just keep moving cars. You know what? I sell enough cars. If somebody doesn't buy that day, I'm okay with that. I gave them the information they needed. The other day, somebody walked on the lawn and they said, hey, we're not buying. I said, hey, not asking you to buy. What are you looking at? They were looking at a van, but they were just looking to see if they could get their sister in this van to bring her back from Minneapolis or somewhere.
Oh.
She had a stroke, and they just wanted to make sure. I said, let me go get keys. I don't care.
Right.
I feel I'm there. I need to not waste time. So help these people out. Maybe 5 years down the road, if they want a car, they'll come see me. You know?
Right.
That's
hey,
how
that
I look
guy,
at that.
That Bryan guy, he was really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
That's how I feel it too, because technically what I do is sales as well, right?
Right.
But I just like to educate people, help them feel like they were treated with dignity and respect.
Mm-hmm.
And if now is not a good time, maybe in the future, or maybe they know somebody that they could recommend if it's not a good fit. But it's the same thing, right? You treat them with dignity, treat them with respect, and help them if they need it. And they're not always going to buy, but in the long run, it comes
typical
around.
Sales, I think, in general. If you're not trying to, I've always been taught this way, you don't always try to sell somebody. You just try to make a friend, and if they're ready to buy, they buy. If not, guess what? Down the road, they'll say, hey, that Roy guy told me this. I'm going to go talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel about even the car business. Same way. I've had lifetime customers. I've been doing this a long time. I'm not going to tell you how many years.
No, we want to know, actually, because that's actually good context. How long have you been doing this?
Over 35 years.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
A lot has changed in the car industry in 35 years.
Oh, my gosh. It's really changed over the years. I mean, back in the day, once COVID hit, it kind of crushed the car business because all these dealers were trying to get more money out of the cars, and then they turned around and the used car market went way high, and it's kind of halfway stabilizing now, but you're still seeing like a lot of the manufacturers are now marking down their cars and re-invoicing these cars because they went up too high because it makes no sense.
Well, and there's also a lot of people that got upside down, right? So if you bought a car during COVID, you overpaid.
Oh, big time.
And now if you're trying to get out of that car, you're actually upside down probably from what you can get for that car. Well, and then to get out of it, you now have to carry that loss into your new purchase. And will they do it? Will they finance it? All that stuff is a little bit difficult for people to maneuver. And
if you bought a car the first month of COVID like I did, you did not overpay.
Right.
Because everybody was freaked out the other way, like, nobody's going to buy cars again. And I got a pretty sweet deal on something. And then 2 months later, it was just like,
through the roof.
I literally got a call from the dealership like, do you want to sell that car back to us? Because we could sell it right now. Even as a used car, we could sell it for.
Right.
I'm like, no, I'll keep it. Thanks.
Well, and the biggest thing is, like Roy was saying, there's so much. They're so tubbed in these cars. They're $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and the only way most of the time you can get out of one of those cars is flip it into a lease and go to something that has tons of rebates.
Oh, yeah.
And are you helping yourself out by doing that? Oh, I'm going to be right up front. No, you're not.
Right.
Because you're better off to probably pay that off. The only way a lease does help you out is you're shortening that period down to like 24 or 36 months. If you're still in the loan for like 72 months or 84 months, a lot of people did, you're just shortening that up. But at that end of the lease, you can walk away, and guess what? All your extra money is gone. No more upside downness.
Right.
And that's a big plus to most people.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about leasing, but first I want to just talk about like how do we like what's the right, we're in a dealership, we're looking for something. I imagine a lot of people are doing a lot of research online now. Probably not as much walking on the lots cold as they used to. Probably have some idea of what it is that we want to look at. I know that's what I do. So I think are you seeing that? Are customers more informed, now, or are they every bit as clueless as they used to be?
No, not at all.
Okay.
The customers, you're the typical customer because they're going in and realistically they're already online looking at everything they want. They know what they want. 90% of the time, all it is do I have that vehicle on the lot?
Okay.
And then you go show them the vehicle, and it might not have one option or it might have more options, but it's one of those things. Most customers they already know what they want when they come on the lot. And like you said, the internet's out there. So they know what stuff costs. They know what everything is. They know there's a ton of rebates. So they basically come in and say, well, I seen this, this, and this. This is what I want to do. And I look at them and I just say, hey, what are you trying to accomplish today? Are you looking to buy today or just look? And they'll say, well, we want to check this out today. It depends on if it fits the bill. And I said, okay.
Sometimes you don't know till you sit in it.
Right.
And you're going to spend a lot of time in there. I mean, especially in Colorado. But if you live somewhere in traffic or that kind of stuff, I mean, you're going to spend, where do you spend most of your time, in one place? It's in your car.
Right. And a lot of people come in, and I had a lady come in and sit in one the other day, and she goes, oh, my gosh, this is way too narrow. And I'm like, yeah, they're a little narrower than they used to be, especially what you're looking for, And she goes, I need to go something bigger. And I said, okay. So we started looking at bigger things. But there's always, everybody usually has kind of in the back of their head what they want before they walk on the lot. They just don't come on the lot and browse like they used to. When I first got in the business, they'd go through every used car or every
They didn't have the
car.
internet when you started in the business. So.
They did not. You're right. You're exactly.
You had to get the weekly ads or something, right?
Yeah, it was all newspaper.
The penny trader or whatever. Yeah.
It was funny because
Auto Trader magazine.
No, I can remember back when I was the sales manager, GSM of a dealership. This guy comes in, he goes, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to get it up online and all this. And we're all saying, yeah, this is kind of funny, because this is never going to work.
Never going to work. You'll never sell
Guess
a car
what?
online.
That's exactly how it works now, That's been only 25 years ago.
Well, what's even crazy is like the Teslas are newer car companies, you can only buy them online.
Right.
You cannot actually go in somewhere and buy it. You have to go online and purchase it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you take delivery. They have a delivery point for
Right.
you. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You can go to like one of the mall showrooms.
That's right.
Yeah.
That they have for those. For the first time I encountered that, I was like, oh, it was like right across the street it was right across the hallway at this mall from the Apple store. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
So
I've actually been in those because everything intrigues me.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, cars. And I'm into old hot rods, you guys know. So it's kind of like one of those things that it doesn't matter what it is. Everybody drives what they want to drive.
Yeah. So I think mostly we've been talking about the new market, you know, and there's definitely some changes there, and I haven't noticed that too. That there seems to be like some rolling back. I've heard these in some of the magazines I read, rolling back of the prices because honestly, the manufacturers got a little greedy. I think the dealers were making a lot of money for a while there, and the manufacturers like, well,
On used vehicles, yeah.
yeah, well, even on the
new.
new, they were selling
you were
for
making them new?
they were selling for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 over MSRP, like. Ford and them were like, well, then our MSRP is too low. And then they raised the MSRP.
Right. And that's what some of the, quote, dealers did. They upped, like the half ton, the F-150 was the biggest thing. They did that when COVID hit. They were marking up 10 grand over window sticker, and the banks ended up buying these cars.
Oh, wow.
You know, with that kind of bump on that window sticker. So who made all that money? The dealership.
Yeah. And so Ford's like, I want a piece of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, is there what about on the used side of things? I think that's where people probably get the most nervous, because not only is it, you know, you're doing the whole car buying process, which is a little intimidating in the first place. It's such a huge purchase, but then, you know, you're buying a used thing, which I mean, cars is one of the few things where we do that. Like, I guess houses, I don't technically lived in houses and used, but you know, I mean, it's one of those things where we actually actively go and look, you know, on the used market. But I feel like that's even an extra level of, you know, concern and anxiety for people. Like, am I getting a good deal? And is this a good car?
Right. Well, my big thing is you need to go to a reputable dealer.
Yeah.
Because some of these places, like our dealership, that's one thing I have to say about our used stuff. We put it through the shop, and our shop is actually makes more money on the cars than we do because they make sure they're roadworthy. If they go through all the safety checks, we do like 129-point inspection, and if something needs fixed, we fix it. I mean, within, you know, like brakes and seat belts or whatever, any safety issue we're going to fix. Cosmetic, we usually, if it's a newer car, we're going to fix that. And one thing you have to look at, some of these dealerships do not put an extended warranty. All of ours has, 90% of them have like a warranty on them for the customer feels at ease when they leave the place.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because like the warranty, the after new warranty concept, right, has really exploded, I feel like. And if you're buying a used car and you're not getting a warranty, is that kind of a bad move?
Roy, I would like to talk to you about your extended car warranty.
Yeah.
Would you please text me back?
Yeah.
At your earliest convenience.
Well, and that's exactly it. And who sells all that? Like when you sign papers on a car and don't buy it, even if you buy a warranty, you see all the time in the mail, you get all this stuff. The DMV is where they track all this from, and that's where you're getting all this stuff from. But realistically, I really believe in warranties. They have to be a reputable warranty. They can't be a fly-by-night warranty company. But like Chrysler, I'm in the Chrysler lineup, so if it's a Chrysler vehicle, guess what? Buy a Mopar warranty, because that's your best bet if something goes wrong with that car. And same way with a pre-owned car. If it's not our brand, we still carry a good warranty. But the big plus to our dealership is we do a 3-year out to 100,000 miles from the day you buy it on powertrain. It's like $100 deductible. So if that car blows up at 60,000 miles, you pay $100 and you get a new motor in it. Yeah. And a lot of people, that's peace of mind to me. Because you know what? I don't want customers coming back complaining to me either.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned those inspections, because I've often wondered, like, you know, like we put this through 120, like, is that just marketing?
No.
Or like,
not at our dealership.
Right.
But there are some that does that, but our dealership we stand behind our stuff, but that's one thing. If they say, most of the time, they always get you for windshield wiper blades, cabin air filters, brakes, and all that stuff, and it's done. I mean, then you don't worry about it. I mean, most of the people that are buying a used car, if you go by another dealership and they don't go through that inspection and you look at the brakes, a lot of people want a second opinion, and that's fine. I even have people that want second opinions. Even though we did it, they'll say, hey, can we take it to our local mechanic that we use all the time? Sure.
Right.
You know, my thing is you want them, it's just black and white.
Right.
You know, if they don't feel comfortable with our shop and they feel comfortable with theirs, let them go take it to their shop, because why hide anything?
So if you ask to do that and the dealer you're trying to buy from says no,
then I would kind of red flag.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So other red flags you can think of? I mean,
so let's stop on that
Okay,
real quick, because that's something that I've not had much experience with. But I mean, it's okay for people to approach the dealership with that ask of saying, hey, I want my mechanic to look at this. Is that okay? And that's a normal thing to do, and the dealership should be willing to.
If it's a reputable dealership, they don't care.
Okay.
You know?
So that's a really good value add, though. Like, why
is.
not have your mechanic look at it if you trust your mechanic, right?
And some people, I got a lot of good customers. They say, hey, do you mind if I run it down to my mechanic? Take it. If he finds something, let us know what he finds, and we'll figure it out from there.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times these guys are going to say, well, it's this or that. Guess what? I've had them come back where they say, well, the tires are on that verge. Well, they passed our inspection process, but they might be in the next 6 months are going to have to replace tires. I'm not going to sit there and tell you they're not, you know.
Right. But you're also getting the price for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then the answer might be like, okay, we'll fix that for you, or we'll make it part of the deal, or,
right.
Whatever. That should be the response, I guess. Is
right.
Not your mechanic's full of it. And,
right.
No, it's perfectly fine for it to be leaking oil. That's just how they work.
There's a lot of good mechanics around. There really are. And it doesn't bother me for somebody to take something somewhere, because if my mechanics did the right thing, then guess what? I don't have nothing to worry about.
Do your mechanics check the blinker fluid?
All the time. I made one of my guys go fill the blinker fluid the other day because it was low.
There are days.
There's a light for that, I'm sure.
Oh, you ought to. One day, it was when I was still on the desk. We had a guy that we had him do an emission test. Kept doing so we sent him out with a plastic bag. We told him to go hold it over the tailpipe and then make sure you tie it and go label what time you took it and take it back to the service writer for he can write off on it and then take it to the parts guy. We had this guy going for like an hour on this.
You guys are awful.
You got to have fun in the business, you know. And this poor guy, he did this for over an hour, and then at that time
somebody let him in on it.
No, the GM told us quit being
Knock
so
it
hard
off.
on the guy. Yeah.
Hey man, you gotta learn.
Gotta learn.
Well, but I mean, speaking of which, like in the state of Colorado, for older cars, we do have emissions tests. Like that's one of the things. And so, I mean, I assume if I'm buying a car of an age that needs one, I should expect to get one, or get
a voucher.
A voucher.
But realistically, they have to pass emissions, and some places don't do that. And I'd make sure before you bought that car, the emission test was done on it.
So that's another one. Then. So you can have your mechanic look at it, have them make sure it has passed emissions.
Yeah.
You give them a copy of the 129-point inspection?
Yeah.
So,
we'll do that, and we'll show them everything that's any mechanic shop or any dealership. If they ask you, or you should ask them, say, what did you do with this in the shop? I just would really like to know what's been looked at.
Well, not only that, if you guys had to do something to fix it, will you disclose that?
Yeah,
so
of course.
That you should be willing to share that information. Yep, this was an issue. We replaced this.
Well, you should be a fully disclosure dealership, because anymore, the people are, like you said, they're not trustworthy of their salesmen or the dealerships anymore. So you really have to present all that stuff to them. If they want it, you present it to them.
Yeah.
Because why hide stuff? If if you ended up replacing belts on this thing or brakes or something in 10,000 miles even, you should say, hey, we had to replace the brakes because the guy rode them too hard.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And emissions, that's one thing that we do right from the beginning. We take them right down the emissions and make sure they pass
Right.
before we even put them through the shop, because if they're not passing, there's an issue right there.
Right.
What's typically the number one issue that you have people come back to you with just over your career? Like, is there something that consistently comes up? And it's really nothing in your control, but like, what's the nuanced piece that if people can be aware of this in advance?
If somebody comes back and they're dissatisfied about something, what is the thing they're generally dissatisfied?
They always are looking at rates and stuff, on as far as the interest rates.
Yeah.
But it's all depending on your credit. And all these banks, most dealerships all work with tons of banks.
Right.
So, and 90% of the people, like we talked before, they already know where they're at before they ever come in there.
So this is actually something that comes up a lot. So I like hearing that. So the rate, and that a lot of times on the time period too, right? Because it's rate today and the rate in a year, they're not the same, right?
Right.
So if somebody comes to you and buys a car, is there any nuance to if they bring their own financing versus financing through the dealership?
No, the thing of it is, a lot of times we'll say, what if we can beat that rate? But there's some of these credit unions out there that have great rates. And when they tell us the rate, you kind of go, wow.
And loyal customers.
Loyal customers.
Yeah,
and
right.
Guess what? You don't fight that stuff because they're comfortable with the bank they're using all the time. Let them use that bank.
So is there any reason, sorry to cut you off, is there any reason that they should disclose that in advance of getting the negotiated price point?
No, I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm kind of laid back, though. Most guys go, well, I need to know that up front. No, you don't, because the price is the price.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to charge you more money just because you're financing somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's unfair. That's,
Well, sometimes
I know when we were talking at the pizza place that Roy didn't get to go to because he was in Africa.
And that pizza place was really good.
my
wasn't
gosh.
it?
you guys are jerks.
Pizza Vino in Fort Collins, Colorado, or Windsor, Colorado.
Looking for sponsorships.
But there's also one in Fort Collins now.
There is one in Fort Collins.
Yeah.
It was
it's
quite
delicious,
good.
isn't it?
But I think in that conversation, it was, you said something about that, like financing versus being a cash buyer or whatever is, and it shouldn't surprise anybody that the dealership makes some money off the financing. So all things being equal, you would like them to finance the car through you. Like a dealership is going to want you to finance the car through them. There's some incentives that goes along with that because obviously, the bank is going to incentivize them, which it's not like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, that's just how the world works. But so you shouldn't be surprised if you get a little bit of like, well, yeah, you got your own financing, but can we try to beat it? And it's not nothing nefarious. It's just, you guys get to make a little bit more if you're the one providing the finance. And sometimes you can.
Right. And that's just it. Like you said, we were talking about that the other night. But yeah, they like, even if we match their rate and our bank gives it to us, well, we get a flat or whatever, that little extra money. And a lot of customers understand that.
Sure.
But if they bring in a pre-approval and we use that bank, guess what? We get it anyway. So it's, it doesn't really matter. We do all the paperwork here and we send it to their bank. Yeah. And we most larger dealerships all have tons of banks and credit unions they use, and they have their choices. Yeah. Customers go, well, I hate that one. Well, I've had nothing but good luck with them, but if this is one you want and you've had good luck with them, good for you,
Yeah, my last two that I've financed ended up with a credit union that it was fine. It was, all that stuff. And then of course, you get the advertisements from the credit union that are like, hey, we can do your other banking too. And, all that stuff, which is, again, what do you expect?
Yeah.
But they were really, really competitive rates. But like you said, it's all credit score. And that's what it is. I don't know if I told the story on this podcast. I told it on Sunday. That I took my son to buy his first car. and he's 18 at the time, and he's out of school, he's working, but he doesn't have any credit. So they ran the financing just on him. And then it came back at I think whatever the Colorado maximum interest rate you're allowed
21.
to charge is 21%.
Oh.
And he's like, oh my. And I'm like, all right, now run it again and I'll co-sign on it. And they ran it again and it came back at a much more reasonable, like 5 or 6 or something. And I'm like, that is the difference between good credit and no credit. And that's why you need to care about it. Because it was $150 a month extra. The difference between 6% and 21%.
Well, and
that's for him. That would be the difference between a $20,000 car that he was buying versus he on his own he would have had to buy a $10,000 car, which probably would have come with more maintenance issues down the line and everything else. So
well, but that's what a lot of, and that's one thing that I always tell my friends, family, whatever. You need to put your kids on credit cards. You need to put them, they always go, well, they can do it on their own. You know what? They can't anymore. You cannot expect them to do it on their own. My boys, I put them on their cars, and I end up keeping them a couple years, paying on them, then I paid them off. But guess what? Their credit scores shot through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
And well, both my boys, so they're all driving newer
I've done
cars.
Their weddings, or will do their weddings.
Yeah. They said they were in the other night. I said, is Pastor Jeremy still doing the wedding?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But they're nothing like me, so they're okay. But they had, that's how you build those kids' credit. That doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. You're just helping them build credit. Even if it's on your own car that you have, put your kid's name on it after they turn 18 for a couple years, and then let them get their own,
Well, that's another podcast, by the way.
Okay.
Talking about all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But since it is a financial podcast, let's add in a little bit of context, right?
Okay.
So, Bryan, do anybody ever come into you that you're like, you know what, you shouldn't buy this car. It's not a good financial decision for you.
I have done that, but no matter how you try to, I've actually told customers in the past, you know what, I don't think I'd do this just because it makes no sense to raise your payment and put yourself in that bind. You have a perfectly good car and stuff, but 90% of the customers, again, they're going to do what they want to do. If you don't let them buy the car from you, they're going to go right down the road and buy the car from somebody else. And I totally agree with you on that. Sometimes all of us as individuals, we want stuff, and sometimes we shouldn't get it at that point.
So
in time.
here's a guide for our listeners, okay? So when you talk about financing debt, okay, when you're looking at a home, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but you're looking at 28% of your gross revenue is the maximum you should be spending on I said gross revenue. Your gross income is the maximum you should be spending on your home payments, okay?
Right.
So if you make $100,000, you shouldn't spend more than $28,000 in payments on your home in a year.
Right.
Okay, that's within what they consider the range through the Certified Financial Planning Association. Okay, now when you actually look at all debt, right, buying a car is adding on debt, right? You shouldn't have more than 36% of your total gross income in all debt.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're looking at trying to buy a car, right, and it's going to be $1,000 a month payment, right? You make $100,000, that's 12% of your gross income that you're spending on the car. Well, if you're spending 28% on your home and you're adding on 12, and now you're at 40% of total expenditure on debt, that's too much.
Right.
You should not purchase that car. You should actually figure out a car that makes more sense for you. Maybe it's not the one you want today, but work towards the one you want. And you can get it one day, but buy a used car that's more affordable, right? It's got more miles, of course, but it can fit the budget without breaking the bank. So if you get yourself in a bind financially, you'll be okay.
Yeah, and similar to though, when we talked about this on the home buying one, is the part of the challenge there is for many of us, myself included, buying a car is an emotional decision. right?
Most buying is emotional.
Most of buying is
Jeremy.
emotional, but I think it's even more so. Like, I mean, we on the home buy, when we talked about this, like you walk into a house, you fall in love, you can picture yourself there and everything like that, and then you forget that this is $100,000 more than you wanted to spend, and suddenly you're justifying it to yourself. And you sit in that car, and it goes vroom vroom, and and it feels good, and it's got the nice screen and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's a little bit more than you plan to spend, but the emotions kind of take over. I feel, I do that. I sit in a place and I just feel a connection to it, or I don't. Like I sit in the car and I'm like, this checks all the boxes and it should be exactly what I want. And I sit in it and I look around and I go, no, like I don't feel it.
Well, and when I was young, I was the same way. When I was selling Xerox and stuff, I'd go by and I'd see that Corvette or the Camaro sitting out there. I'd see a car and I'm going, I'm an impulse buyer.
Yeah. It's funny. It's feel like you guys are advertising for people like me and why we exist.
No, exactly.
I separate people from their emotion, right?
Exactly. Well, but I also think like I think you do also need to account for, the joy that something brings you. Like there's a value in
joy,
in enjoying what you're doing. If you're going to spend a lot of time in your car, take the time. Don't spend more than you should, but also take the time to find something that you actually like being in. It's a color you like. It's like, I think that kind of stuff is important just because you're going to spend a lot of time. It's going to be a big investment, and so you don't do the impulse thing. Don't just buy the first shiny thing you see, but do, sit it, make sure you're comfortable, and all that kind of stuff, because you're, a vehicle in my mind is a long-term relationship.
I love the fact that you're like jazzed right now, Jeremy, because you know what? There's equally people that don't care.
I know.
I have the whole spectrum, but it's very true. The people that love cars absolutely do that, right? But I actually have clients too that are just like, you know what? It's just a way for me to get to and fro.
Right.
Yeah. I just want one that's dependable.
And I get a lot of customers like that. They're both ways.
Yep.
And the emotional buys are like personally Corvettes and Hellcats and things like that. And
they see Jeremy coming a mile away.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's going to love this car.
But like you said earlier about affording a car, a lot of times the banks will go, okay, we got to cut this back. They cannot be looking at this. And you have to tell the customer, hey, the bank is telling us this is the price range we need to be in. Because there are that factors too. The bank kind of cuts them back because, like you said, there's debt to income to look at and stuff. And that's kind of, and like I tell customers, I said, because you have to buy this car now, in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is, your wages might go up, situations might change.
Well,
Guess what?
Then you earn into it. You earn into it.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that.
But that's hard work, and you earn that. And then when you go buy that car, it's going to feel that much better, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
knowing your values around it. Because if you are more of the, like, this is just the way that I get around, then that's great. But also, like, hopefully the dealer you're working with understands that and isn't trying to, that's another thing, like, not trying to sell you something you don't want. If you really don't care and you're just like, I want something that's reliable and solid and gets good gas mileage or whatever and gets me from point A to point B, then, hopefully you're working with somebody who understands that and isn't trying to say, like, well, this one's purple,
Yeah.
So, Brian, big question for you here.
Right?
Now we're getting real.
Is this a time I need to get up and leave?
New, shiny, exciting. Man, I really want this car. I got the price tag. What else is going to hit me if I buy that car at that price tag? What's coming that I didn't maybe realize if it's my first purchase?
Sales tax.
Oh my goodness. So what's the percent on sales tax?
It depends on where you live. It's all depends on, like, Johnstown here is, I think, up to almost 7%, isn't it now?
Oh, I don't know.
You bought the most recent car, Jeremy.
I did. Okay. So yes, I did.
It's over 6. I know.
Did you finance the sales tax, Jeremy?
I did not.
Okay.
Well, but 90% of the time it's just rolled in.
I know.
So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no that yeah. But then
so
but
not
it's not
only that
just
you're
that.
paying interest on the sales tax.
But it's also the title and registration.
Yep.
Tax title and registration.
Well, but that's after the fact.
That's after the fact.
Sales tax.
That's the one that goes hit you in the face.
Yeah, that's the one that for me is the killer.
So you have sales tax, then you have the titling.
Yes.
Right? And then you have the insurance, right?
Oh, insurance is
nuts.
Insurance anymore, and it's because our area has grown so much. Insurances went up and everything else.
I am so surprised because people, like you said at the beginning, people they walk into the thing, they already know what they want. They've looked at it online. They have 2 or 3 picked out. The number of people who go through that trip and then like on the way to the car dealership, don't call their insurance company to say, hey, if I buy this, what's it going to cost?
Yep.
Like
I was always that way. But here's the other scenario. My insurance always was about the same, fluctuated a little bit, but I've also been bid on that too. But I was one time when I was young, I was like 17. I was looking at a Porsche. I wanted a Porsche really bad. It was a 928. Back then, that car was the car.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I can afford
Risky
this
business.
payment. I can afford this payment. I can afford this payment. And all of a sudden, I said, I'm going to check my insurance. My insurance was more than the payment was going to be. I said, whoa.
Ooh.
I pumped the brakes on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So guess what? I didn't ever drive a Porsche.
So point being that our listeners really need to understand, like, okay, there's the buying and the negotiating and the getting the cost for the car, right? And the payment that you're going to have. But then you need to make sure you're understanding that you have the sales tax and you have the registration and you have the insurance. And all of that's part of this picture. So if you don't know those numbers, you need to know that before you say yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to buy that car.
Right. And like even a year down the road, you have to relicense that car.
Yeah.
And then the following year. I got mine in the mail the other day, and I went and licensed my vehicle. And you know what I drive? I was like, it's still that?
Right.
You know?
Well, so then for our listeners, it's like, okay, if you buy a brand new, feels really good, might be emotional.
Yeah.
Now, if I buy used,
It's
all of those numbers are a lot less.
Right.
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 Yeah.
So
They are.
you just have to take all that into consideration. So sometimes not having what you want is a good thing so that you can have something you're still working towards and can have that
Right.
one day.
I think it's really important too. Just know what you want, know what your values are, and know what your strategy is. You know, I mean, I tend to buy new, but typically, it has not been my case lately, unfortunately. But typically, I'm a buy new and I keep it for a long time because modern cars are really good. There aren't a lot of bad ones.
Roy, I think it's been like, I've seen 6 cars.
No, I know.
I'm not sure what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
I don't
right now.
either.
Yeah, well, you know, I wasn't planning to get remarried and have extra kids and all this other stuff. But that before now, that had been kind of the way that I tend to handle it. And some people are not that way. Some people are like, I'm only going to buy used just because, you know.
I still have my first. So I didn't buy a brand new vehicle until I was, how old was I? 33. My first brand new vehicle, 2014. And I still have it today.
Yep.
I love it. And I'll keep it probably for another 20 years.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, we grew up in the same area back home in Nebraska there.
Yep.
The good life. But
With all the corn.
with all the corn,
My dad calls it the windy life.
the windy life. But I bought my first new car when I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And it was like you said, I trusted a guy that I knew for a long time in the business. He lived around the corner from my parents. I used to walk by his house growing up, and he had the one time I went in his house and I was coming home from school, and I was probably 16 at the time. No, probably 15 because I wasn't driving. So I walked by his house. He had a 67 Camaro that he was redoing in that garage.
Oh.
And I was like drooling over that car, you know. And then we talked, and I bought my first car from him. And I probably bought 5 cars from that guy before I ever got in the car business.
Nice.
Great guy, you know, and he's passed away since then. But I actually bought my first Corvette from that guy at 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any cars you wish you wouldn't have gotten rid of?
Oh, tons of them.
Which one? What's your number one?
Probably I had a really nice IROC that had no miles on it.
I don't even know what that is.
Camaro
IROC Z.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
IROC Z.
I am not a car guy.
You're
You can't
just
tell.
a little bit younger.
I grew up. First vehicle I ever drove. Want to take a guess?
Pickup.
Tractor.
Combine.
Combine.
Oh, okay.
Those are worth way more money
Yeah,
than
yeah,
what I'm
it's like the most
selling.
expensive car you'll ever drive.
I'm more into a combine as a
Yeah.
young kid than I was
Yeah,
into
yeah,
cars.
My first car was a 72 Olds Cutlass 2-door hardtop. Orange. It was called Orbit Orange back then, or Competition Orange, with white interior in it.
Mine was a 1980 Chevy Malibu with 0 options, to the point that it had no passenger side rearview mirror. It was a French bench seat, a AM radio, and it was a 4-door where the rear windows did not roll down. They were not crank. They were fixed in place. You literally could not roll the windows down in the back. My grandma had bought it off the lot in 1980, my great-grandma in 1980, for probably $5.
I drove the first car I drove that my parents purchased, okay, which was kind of like a hand-me-down, if you will, was a 1984 Ford Tempo.
Oh yeah, everybody remembers the Tempo.
Burgundy, like burgundy reddish color, right?
Oh,
and the heater core went out in it, and they weren't fixing that, right? So in the wintertime, I would have to roll the window down on the driver's side. We lived about 3.5 miles out of town. I'd put my head out the window to drive.
Oh yeah.
And one time there's a guy, I was doing that and I was driving slow, right? And there's a guy passing me and I look over at him and it was my cousin. Looking at me like, what are you doing, man? Why'd your head out the window?
But that wasn't the common color on that car. It was baby blue on the Tempo.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
The Tempo, there was a ton of baby blue Tempos. Yeah.
My second car was a 93 Mercury Topaz, so the Mercury version of the Tempo with the burgundy interior.
I won't tell you what my second car was.
Well, any other like common things you see that you wish people knew, or pitfalls to avoid?
I think the biggest thing is when you go in, make sure you're working with the right guy.
Yeah.
I really do. There's guys that you can tell you connect to, and if you don't connect with the guy, just say, hey, I'm sorry, but we are just not connecting. I'd like to work with somebody else.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that's being rude to anybody.
Yeah. Sometimes I know people feel pressure. I had a client tell me a story one time where they went in to potentially do a trade-in, and they kind of felt like manipulated into it. Like they took her car keys, they took they went in and look at her, but it was like, she's like, I didn't have my car anymore. And I felt like they were kind of like forcing me to buy this new car.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't feel like she was in control. She kind of felt like, I was like, well, this is the next step and this is what you should be doing. And if you're not doing it, what are you doing? Like, you're an idiot. Right. That's how they made her feel.
Well, and my personal thing on that is I, after they're done looking at the car, I always go grab their keys and give them back to them, because it's like separation anxiety.
It's a security thing.
Yeah.
That was her experience, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
she felt like, well, they took my car keys, so I guess I don't have my car anymore.
Right.
Right. Anyway, so it wasn't a good experience for her, and she won't ever go back there, of course. But she's an older woman. And, that's the biggest thing. Is I have a lot of widow clients, and I actually tell them a lot of times, just call me. I'll help you get that car, so you at least have someone there to support you.
Yeah.
I have friends and stuff. People ask me questions all the time about, what do you think of this? They don't buy from me all the time, but I'll give them advice anytime. If somebody wants to call me, I'll give them advice. It's free, right? It's one of those things and I'm with you on that and I think women feel more intimidated most of the time when they go in, especially older women. They just don't feel like they just feel like they're being taken advantage of, and they don't want to do everything one day, or they just go, they feel like people push them, and I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
No. Well, and I think having a plan, we've talked about a lot, but I think realistically, if you have a plan, you understand what your budget is, you understand what you want, right? I think that empowers you to go in there and say, you know what? No, I don't want what you're trying to offer me right now, and give me my keys back. Right. And they're your keys. You haven't sold them anything.
Right.
No.
Ask them
unless
back.
I throw them on the roof. No, I'm just kidding.
And I do think the other thing is just make sure you're working with a reputable dealer. And I know, Bryan, you've worked in great and wonderful places, but we have to be honest, there are some unreputable dealers, especially you start getting down in the buy here, pay here kind of places. And that's, literally like check the Google reviews, and things like that. But if you're working for a reputable dealer,
there's some people though, you're right, but there's some people that's where they have to start their career in the car business, but make sure that they will take care of you. Yeah. And there's a few of them around that I know some of the guys that run them that are really good places. But then you got the other ones. I agree with you that they don't care. They'll hook on it and tow it if you miss a payment,
Right.
you know?
And then sell to somebody else.
Yeah.
They have
so-
YouTube channels for that now. Did you know this?
Towing?
I
bet.
repoing
Oh,
people's
I don't.
vehicles?
There's YouTube channels for everything. So,
Wouldn't you like
All
that?
right.
I tried to repo a car once. The guy shot down the street at us. This was way back.
This is why it was only one time. You're like, yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
just
not
sell
for
the
me.
cars.
No.
Yeah, I'll just
Somebody else could go get
No,
them.
the guy didn't pay us. He paid the down payment, and it was kind of a place that it was an older car. And we said, he goes, "Will you take payments?" And we said, "Sure." You know, he seemed like a pretty good guy, and we set him up on a payment plan. Well, he didn't make two. He wanted to call us back, so we went and got it, and it was in Wyoming that we had to go. And all of a sudden, I said, "You guys drop," and we had an extra key. I go, "You drop me by the pickup, and I'll jump in and grab it." And so I jumped in. I was taken off in it, and I got shot at.
Oh,
And
my
it's
gosh.
kind of like you go, maybe this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, this pickup's probably not worth
I'm
it.
just glad it started.
Yeah. Oh, my God. All right. Well, I could probably sit here and talk cars all day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But and of course we live in time. There's all kinds of different ways to do
Yeah.
it. So, but I appreciate you coming out and chatting with
Yeah.
us, Brian.
Yeah, enjoyed. Roy, I'm glad you enjoyed your vacation, that you sent
did.
all these
I did.
pictures to us
Yeah, I know.
that we didn't get to see. you know?
Well, I have a video of a lion.
Oh, cool.
It actually stalked, chased, caught a warthog.
Oh, wow, that'd be fun.
And I have it on video. I don't have the whole thing on video, but I have the catch. And then they lost the lion couldn't kill the warthogs. They're pretty hard to kill, actually.
They're hardy,
So
hardy
it
creatures.
was squealing, and then all these hyenas. Which, by the way, we hadn't seen a hyena hardly at all.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And then they came from everywhere.
Well,
After
And
the
they-
lion.
They came and they stole the kill from the lion, right? And the lion was with some cubs, which they're a year old, so they're not like baby cubs, but they're not big enough to fight a hyena yet. And anyway, so then they actually ended up getting back part of the kill. It was pandemonium. It was
Wow.
nuts. Well, the craziest thing I've ever seen. The guides that were with us were like, they had their phones out videoing you, right? So you know when you're witnessing something rare,
Right,
because
right.
the
Even the
guides
guides
have
are
their
even like,
phones
oh,
out. And they're like, you do not see this hardly ever.
Nice.
So we actually saw from start to finish, which was crazy. It was crazy. So
Well-
I was very.
Well,
I
my
really
wife
enjoyed
said
it.
that picture you sent, I showed her, and she goes, that's just a picture. He's not right there. So I showed her the other one. I go, that's the place.
yeah.
That was really cool.
Well, now that we're completely off topic, I
Yeah,
want to
know, right? Let's
Sorry.
thank everybody
Wrap this
for
up, would you?
watching to Guy Talk. I mean, the
Car
About
Talk.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Car Talk is About Podcast. But yes, Brian, thanks for coming and hanging out with us and giving us an insider peek into a world that we all have to probably engage with at some point. So.
Yeah. Enjoyed. Thanks, guys, for inviting me.
You bet. Thanks,
All right, thank you,
Next
Roy.
time, maybe we'll take in Pizza Vino.
There you go. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank y'all for joining. As always, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you're, if you know a friend who's thinking about buying a car, share this episode with them, or if it's you. And if you're not sure what it is you're doing or what it is you can afford, talk to your financial advisor first, and call your insurance company. If nothing else,
That's
do
good.
that.
Good start.
Perfect.
Good start.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
CWA is a Securities and Exchange Registered Investment Advisor. No content contained herein should be construed as an offer for investment advice or an offer for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Investments involve the risk of low loss, including loss of principal. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, or legal professional before implementing any strategy presented here. Data presented here are obtained from believed reliable sources but cannot be guaranteed as to completeness or accuracy.